Welcome all to another episode of the Echo from the Views podcast. I am your host, David Howman, joined by a full house. We've got everybody on hand for this one. We have Aya Abdeen, Austin Bundy, Tom Harden, and Andrew Hazlett. And we got a lot of people and we got a lot of things to talk about. It's a busy time of the year for Arizona State athletics. We've got baseball that just came back. We've got major scheduling changes in the football world that we're going to get into, and then we're winding down towards the end with hockey and basketball, and there's plenty of things that are still going on in those sports. It's a busy time, and we were talking before the show too. We're all busy in our own personal lives too. I was just out of the country on vacation, and I'm desperately trying to catch up on sleep. So if you hear me snoozing and snoring throughout this episode, you can just go ahead and tune that part out. It's not for lack of excitement. Tom, you mistakenly assumed I was in my 30s. I'm still a young man. But how are you holding up right now at this point in the year? Are you exhausted and are you tired as I am right now?
Well, David, as I said off air, once you're over 30 like me, there's no catching up on sleep. You're always perpetually just in that grind, in that hole. But me personally, I'm thriving. Baseball's back. Like you said, hockey's winding down. There's still a lot going on in and around Tempe and abroad as the spring sports get up and running. And as we know, football's always looming just around the corner. That fact never escapes us. So it's a lot of exciting times, and I'm all in on it. Yeah, Andrew and I, you're our two youngins on the show.
Do Tom's warnings about turning 30, does that scare you, or does that make you just feel like I got to make the most of my young age while I've got it?
I'm always scared, but I'm always embracing what's next. So words don't scare me further than I already actually am, but I'm so excited for what's going to come over these next 10 years or so until I get to 30. And then 10 more years until I get to 40.
And then you're a man.
Works.
That's crazy to think about, I just turned 23 yesterday, and it still doesn't feel so real.
Yeah, you're in your Jordan year, so that's the one you got to really make the most of, more than any of the other ones in the 20s.
For sure. And I do have some exciting news as well. Almost 2 weeks ago, I just found out that I'll be covering this year's Women's Final Four for the first time in my career, so I'm so excited for this opportunity. And if Molly Miller and some of the ASU women's basketball players are around, stay tuned for some stories as well. I'm going to be all over the place at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be. I can't believe we're almost to March Madness. Of course, we'll be getting into that a little bit later. But Austin, for the people that are listening, not watching, describe to us what you're wearing. I feel funny saying "tell me what you're wearing," but yes, tell us all what you're wearing.
Hey man, we don't judge here.
That kind of show.
I'm repping the red, white, and blue instead of the maroon and gold today, obviously, because the Olympics are on. Something David doesn't care about that he told us off air, and the U.S. women pulled off a crazy overtime comeback victory over Canada for the gold medal. The captain, Hillary Knight, tying things up in the late third period. Goalie pulled. She breaks both the all-time women's Olympic points records and goal-scoring records with just a single shot. So that was pretty historic. And then we get the overtime winner from Keller with a sick drag around the Canadian defender. That's one of those moments that like every kid, no matter what, is dreaming of and playing in their head, playing street hockey or whatever, with the Olympic gold medal on the line, toe drag around a defender, score. That was just, you can't write it any better than that. And so it's a pretty cool moment, and I'm feeling confident that eventually we're gonna have some Sun Devils out on Olympic ice. Maybe even Doan's kid. Like, why not? He could make his way onto an Olympic team. He was on a He played in juniors for the U.S., didn't he, Tom?
He was on the World Championship gold medal winning team last year.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, so
with
you'd know
Joey
that
Ford.
if you were an Olympics fan like me. But yes, it's Olympic season, and we're all very excited about it. We're all equally excited about it, and it's the best time of the year. It's also the best time of the year because, as Tom mentioned, ASU baseball is back. They can I say they kicked off their season? Can I use that phrase when it's baseball? I feel funny doing that, but
Lead off.
yeah. They had the season had its lead off. There we go, and they started off with a series against Omaha. They were able to sweep them, and then they were on Tuesday. They absolutely blasted UConn 17-7. So they're 4-0, off to a good start. They look pretty much the same that they've looked the last few years with really explosive offense. Pitching has some good bright spots, some areas that you say kind of, are we going back down the same path, or is it just, start of the season jitters? Andrew, I know that you, on the last show, you talked a lot about how that's kind of the main focus is where's this pitching staff going to be? What did you see in these first 4 games? What was your main takeaway?
I saw a lot of mixed bag results from the Sun Devils. I don't know if I mentioned it last show, but Bloomquist going into this season, he said that his strategy, at least out to start off, is to have a starter and then have a guy stretched out to go like 3-4 innings so you can potentially finish off the game or get to your back end of your bullpen. And we saw that work a few times over the weekend, namely on Friday with Alex Overbay backing up Cole Carlone. 3 innings of 1-run ball from him, only 1 inning from Schaefer at the end. They all pitched really good Friday. Sunday, Jay Nalba did phenomenal in relief after Easton Barrett was walking just about anyone with a pulse, it seemed like. Which something I think he'll get figured out by next start against St. John's. So I that's something I saw. Saturday was more of a mixed bag. I described it on my article on Devils in Detail, which you can find all of our work on there. As a bit of a roller coaster, you had some great performances and some performances where. And Wyatt Halverson, yeah, he didn't allow a run, but he didn't look like he was throwing his best stuff out there. So it's hard to say after 4 games, oh, this pitching staff's really great. It's really not. I don't know. Time will tell. I liked what I saw from Colin Linder, the Saturday starter. Cole Klecker had a nice game on Tuesday. I know, Tom, you were there for that. Just a lot of things that I can say, oh, yeah, I like, but you're also let's not forget you're playing Omaha and UConn, 2 teams that are not Power 4. Omaha in particular was not a top 100 team last year. UConn was one of those teams that was a borderline tournament team, but it's still UConn in a midweek. Midweeks are always madness. I don't care if you're playing West Eastern University or Oklahoma Coast College or Oklahoma or Oklahoma State. They're always going to be chaotic. Things are going to happen that don't normally happen. So you take midweek results with a grain of salt. So that's kind of what I see from that. As you look at the team down south, they didn't beat Omaha. They lost to them on Tuesday. And now they're going to take on UConn in a 4-game stretch to see. It'll be a good comparison to see where they are compared to ASU. Obviously, take everything with a grain of salt because non-conference still early this season. Things can change a lot with everything. So that's kind of my wrap up from what I saw.
Well, beating Omaha isn't for everybody, as we saw on Tuesday. But Andrew, I'm glad that you bring up Cole Fletcher, and he was one of the guys that I had circled as a player to watch for myself. I know that Coach Bloomquist has been saying that he's been one of the stronger pitchers throughout spring camp, getting ready for the season, and he had just an absolutely dynamic start. 65 pitches over 5 innings, struck out 7, only gave up 1 run on 2 hits. And it was about as perfect of a start as you could ask for. And I'm really interested to see how he continues to develop if Bloomquist keeps him in that midweek starter role, or as has been hinted, the possibility of moving him into a weekend role. He's certainly shown that he is ready to dominate the mound on any given night. Granted, this is only one start, so we'll have to kind of stretch that evaluation out a little bit as the season goes along here in the open, but I loved what I saw out of him, mixing his pitches really well. Post-game comments, he was saying that his slider was really working well for him, getting a lot of guys to swing and miss. And what I liked is he was not afraid to pitch in the zone. Didn't try and be too fancy with anything, didn't try and nibble around the corners. He was pitching the contact, letting his guys behind him do the work, and letting the Connecticut batters make mistakes too. You saw a lot of the time when these guys were working themselves into unfavorable counts, down 0-2, 1-2, and really putting Clucker in control of that at bat, and saw it time and time again across his 5 innings.
Somebody remind me to add Oklahoma Coast to my dynasty this weekend.
I did want to add on to Tom's point is that I think you'll see Klecker next Tuesday at Oklahoma as a midweek start because, as I mentioned, Oklahoma and UConn are both two tougher opponents in the midweek than the previous weekends, St. John's and Omaha. So you do want to have a guy that you can feel more confident in than maybe your Sunday starter in Easton Barrett at this point. But I think there's a chance if Barrett plays well then on Saturday and Klecker kind of lays an egg against Omaha, we might see Barrett out there for that final game in the Arlington series a week and a few days from now at this point. That's interesting to see for me is who's going to be that third starter in that particular game. Will it still be Barrett or will Klecker still be a midweek guy? I don't know at this point, but that's something to watch out for.
Yeah, and I think I'm really interested to see how Barrett responds after that first game too, because a year ago it was kind of similar, not necessarily as bad as he was this weekend, but his how he played at the start of the year was not. It was night and day different from how he was playing at the end of the year. He got much better as the season went on, to where I felt very comfortable, and obviously Willie Bloomquist felt comfortable with him being the Sunday guy. So you have to expect that he will have a better effort this next time around. But it's an interesting dynamic to monitor, especially because there is so much hype around Cole Klecker, and he already looked so good in that first game. But if they end up coming to a point where Easton Barrett bounces back and Klecker still looks like he did on Tuesday, that's a really good problem to have too, where you've got 4 different pitchers that you feel good about and only 3 weekend days to figure out who's playing in them. That would be completely different from what ASU's had the last few years of having to pick between, reliable starters versus, who's taking Sunday when we've already split the first 2 games. So I'm excited to see that. I'm of course excited for the Sun Devils to come out to Oklahoma. I tried to buy tickets to that one because y'all know I'm out in that area. I accidentally bought tickets for the Oklahoma Coast game instead of the OU game. So I could have used Andrew's guidance on that one, but Andrew, as you mentioned, they do play St. John's this upcoming weekend, so that's next on the docket for them. And other news for baseball is the contract extension for Willie Bloomquist was officially approved on Thursday when the Arizona Board of Regents met. And so I know that's already been announced. We already knew some of the details, but he's wrapped up for a little bit longer, got a little bit of a raise too, and that's a nice little, I think, morale boost at the start of the season. You start out 4-0, you know for a fact that your coach is now locked down for the foreseeable future. And of course, there was other news that came out, not with baseball, but with other ASU sports on Thursday as well. They unveiled a rendering of their new indoor practice facility that they're going to be building. And the price actually went up. they had some. Graham Rossini was talking on local sports radio and said that someone who will remain nameless until the unveiling of the naming rights of this practice field stepped up and ponied up money and more than doubled the cost of what it was going to be, and so now it's going to be even nicer, even more bougie than it was before. And I don't know how many of y'all saw the actual pictures and everything, but it looks very, very nice.
It looks NFL quality, to be honest.
Yeah.
And Coach Dillingham finally got his big time donor to step up after he's been appealing to the community at large for almost his entire tenure, and it's great to see the community step up. Whoever that donor is, I'm sure we will find out in due course, but collectively, huge thank you for dropping that money.
I second that.
I'm hearing that this donor is a graduate of Oklahoma Coast College.
That's funny enough. LOL.
Which coast are we talking about? The coast of the Red River?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have to add in as well, since Kenny Dillingham has arrived on campus almost 3 years ago, he has transformed the football program to one of the best. Like as of lately, and I'm just really impressed to see how the Sun Devils football program has come a long way from the Herm Edwards, a lot of drama going on, to where they are heading. That's a huge turnaround.
That's definitely the most polite way to describe the Herm Edwards era. Is a lot of drama going on. I like it. I like it.
Mind
Yeah,
you,
we
I was
actually
just
don't say that
sophomore.
name around here.
I was just a sophomore at Arizona State, and it was really wild. And I didn't start reporting on football until just last year. So I'm like, actually, almost 2 years ago when I wrote only one story for Connecticut News, which was pretty fascinating to say the least.
Yeah, it's been remarkable just how much things have changed, and because Arizona State, we all know, has had some successful years in the past, but no other coach has really capitalized on it the way that Kenny Dillingham already is. When you think about the extension that he just got and the raise in the salary pool and things like that, and commitments to NIL, and now with this, the way that it's benefiting the practice facility that's going to be built, and it's also going to be right next door to the stadium, which rip to those parking lots. That's not going to be great on game day, but.
Crafty Devils will be looking for a new tailgating location.
Right. Yeah. No. It's going to change things, but some sacrifices have to be made for the greater good, and it's really an indication in my mind that this program is continuing to stay on the rise, and so much so on the rise that SEC schools are quaking in their boots, as we heard. Texas is backing out of their game with Arizona State because they are just terrified of the Sun Devils.
It just
Oh
needs more.
boy, it's spicy out here.
They don't want that rematch smoke.
Yeah. I heard that they were targeting a different team.
Yeah, ASU should give Oklahoma Coast a call. Fill that spot.
Well, and ASU, it was funny, like a couple hours before that news broke, is they agreed to a home-and-home with Stanford. For what year is it? Is it 2029?
30 and 31.
31 and 32.
31.
The 31.
Don't even
Andrew-
get me started about those years. It
Andrew,
feels like
you'll almost be in your
Oh.
30s by then.
Yeah.
maybe it might be a mom to be. We will have to wait and see.
Meanwhile,
Yeah,
I'm
it's-
entering my Tillman year by the time that rolls around.
But and yeah, so Texas is out. Florida's already been out. Whispers that LSU is out. Yeah, like Andrew said, it just means more, right?
Yes, it does.
But yeah, obviously, it would have been fun to see those games happen. But I think given ASU's record against the SEC, I'm fine with pivoting towards playing some Stanford quality teams. All due respect to the Cardinal new head coach Tavita Pritchard, but I like our chances in 2030.
We don't know what Andrew Luck's going to do to that program. He's their general manager now.
Yeah. I mean, unless Andrew Luck gets down on the football field and starts airing it out, I feel fine.
And on a serious note, though, if I'm the Big Ten, I'm giving if I'm any Big Ten schools, I'm giving ASU a call, because even though no Big Ten school has ever come to Tempe and won, I feel like any of those teams in that conference should look for any opportunity to look better than the SEC, and to see the SEC backing out of matchups with a Big 12 school that is clearly on the rise. The Big Ten, any of these programs should be looking at ASU and saying, yeah, we'll take you on. Like, we'll schedule something. We go down to you one year, you come up to the Midwest. Like, could you imagine if you can think about the polar opposite environments that these two programs would have to go into, having to go, let's say, like, you got you bring the Golden Gophers down, and then you got to go to Minneapolis the next year, or you go to Ohio State and you got to bring the Buckeyes in. I don't think the Buckeyes have ever come to Tempe. The last time they've ever played each other was in that Rose Bowl. So that would be some appointment television to see those two programs go at it.
Bring Michigan down here and return series in the Big House.
I'd like to play old Pac-12 rivals. I'd like to get back to that, because with the conference realignment, and you schedule these games 10 years or so in advance sometimes. Even I thought I saw one scheduled as late as 2040. I want to say, like, James Madison and no, that they're in conference, but there's someone that scheduled someone in 2040. Like if I'm ASU, I'd want to go play your UCLA's, USC's, Oregon State's, Washington State's. You're already stuck with Utah, Colorado, and Arizona in your Big 12, but let's go play these other old Pac-12 rivals that you don't get to see anymore. And you've seen that across the board in other sports, where with basketball, where scheduling isn't released 10 years in advance, which I like seeing that.
Yeah, and I think Graham Rossini has said that in the past too, is that when they can get something scheduled with those old Pac-12 foes, that's something that is on their mind, and that was kind of what led to getting Stanford on their schedule when something came open. I also really like the idea of Oregon State as a non-conference opponent, because it means even though you have to go to Corvallis, you're not doing it in November, and that's like the ideal, something that we would all collectively pray for every single year, and to have that just like etched in stone that it won't be in November anymore would be nice for sure.
Hate that town in November.
Yeah, it's I mean, between going to Corvallis in November and going to the town that Mississippi State is in, whose name I definitely remember.
Starkville?
Yeah, Starkville.
This week on Fansville.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Andrew never wants to go there with all the cowbells. But Corvallis in November is just as bad.
The sound of those chainsaws on third down haunt my dreams.
I can't say much against that. My first alma mater, NAU, did chainsaws as well in the dome. So
The chainsaw is legitimately cool. I am a fan, but not when it's at my own team's expense. But you know, with the new practice facility and all the money, that won't even matter, because we're gonna have so much talent out there that we could play them in November, and we would walk the dog and
Walk the beaver.
Yeah, exactly. But one area where beavers and dogs are not really being walked lately, though, is on the ice for Arizona State. It's a beautiful transition, but Tom, what's going on with Sun Devil hockey?
Well, first and foremost, as I wrote in my preview for Devils in Detail earlier this week, missing Cullen Potter is really starting to put its strain on the collective team, and more, and especially so on the top line. I was diving into the stats in the 8 games since Potter went down, and Cruz Lucius and Ben Shimmick have been mainstays on the top line all season long. Sean McGurn has stepped up and become the top line center. Kyle Smolin has seen some time as top line center. But when you're looking at the first 4 games since Potter went out, that's talking about the North Dakota series and the Colorado College series. Those 4 combined for a respectable 16 points, putting up 2 goals and 14 assists. but the last 4 games, Lucius and Shimmick have been kept off the score sheet, and McGurn and Smolin have only combined for 3 goals and 1 assist in 4 games. And when you look at the team as a whole, in the 8 games without Potter, averaging 2.75 goals per game, but over the current 5-game losing streak, averaging under 2 goals a game, 1.8 goals per game. And you can see just how that's permeating across the entire roster, and the depth that Coach Powers has been preaching all season long, it's becoming dimmer and dimmer. You're still seeing some spots of hope in Carmelo Crandall. Sam Alfano has been producing as of late as well, but this upcoming series against Omaha is turning out to be an inadvertent play-in game for the NCHC tournament. Now, when the NCHC expanded to 9 teams, bringing ASU in, originally the tournament format did call for a 1-game play-in between the 8 and 9 seeds that would be held at the site of the number 1 team in the conference. Mid-season last year, the NCHC decided to scrap that, but we still get that this year. Just comes with the caveat of being the home finale series for the Sun Devils. As much as hope is dwindling for the Sun Devils, not all is lost, because with a sweep this weekend, granted that's a tall order given the current losing streak, but with a sweep, the Sun Devils could clinch, at worst, the number 8 seed in the NCHC tournament and be assured of at least one more weekend of play before the offseason.
That's the best case.
That's the best case. Obviously, anything less than a sweep, points still matter when the Sun Devils travel to Denver next weekend. And God forbid, should the losing streak continue, Sun Devils would really be behind the 8 ball. Right now, they are only 1 point up on Omaha in the conference standings. And in the event of a tie, Omaha currently holds the tiebreaker due to a greater number of regulation wins in conference play.
And I think it's also worth noting that, as Tom pointed out, ASU goes to Denver next weekend, whereas Omaha, I believe, travels to Miami. I know. Host Miami. I wasn't sure if they were home or away, but I know who I'd rather be playing of those 2 teams. I'd rather be playing Miami. No disrespect to them, but Denver is a tough team through and through. Miami's just not shown to be that. So you have to get a win at worst this weekend, I think, and it has to be a regulation win too, because overtime wins not good unless it turns out that the other game's an overtime loss. So regardless, 3 points is the number is the minimum for this series, which it's crazy to me to saying this, is that the season comes down to Omaha. Had you asked me that in the beginning of the year, had you told me that, I would have said, man, Omaha must be really good or something. Not ASU's fallen off the turnip truck since Potter's injury, which is what's happened.
Well, at the outset of the season, I had a feeling that this series would have seeding implications. I just thought it was going to be more for which of Arizona State and Omaha would be securing home ice with the series. I did not expect that this would be a battle for 8th place in the conference tournament.
Well, and I mean, in a way, this week will be like, it's almost like the tournament's already starting for ASU too, because it is the must win environment of it, and so it's going to be interesting to see, after all the things that have gone wrong this season at various points, like, do they still have some fight left in them? Can they step up and step up when it kind of comes down to it? Or is it going to be more of like a feeling of, man, let's just call it a year, come back next year, try again, after a full off season to heal up?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm expecting to see out there this weekend. I'm expecting a playoff-type atmosphere from both teams. I'm expecting a lot of desperation on both sides of the ice. And these 2 teams are going to be going after each other hard. And Mike Gabinet's teams over in Omaha, they're no slouches. They've had some injury, some bad luck with injuries, with goaltender Simon Lacosi being out for 12 games during the season, and when he's been healthy in the stretches after his initial injury, he hasn't quite been his usual self when he was the Hobie Baker nominee last year. But it would not surprise me at all to see a vintage Simon Lacosi performance this weekend, especially given how last year Omaha pushed Arizona State to the brink and got a split in Arizona State's final series at Omaha last year. Something else to note with this series, when the NCHC expands to 10 teams next year, when the University of St. Thomas joins, Arizona State and Omaha will be designated travel partners, meaning that they will be guaranteed a home and away series with each other every season, and the last series of the regular season will be between those two teams, alternating who hosts by season.
So you're saying it's going to be a rivalry much like Arizona State and Utah?
I'm saying that the NCHC is kind of pushing this rivalry together, but it's certainly turning that way.
More people
Tom,
jump in and say Utah's not a rival, but I know
It goes without saying.
We all agree.
Tom, I have a question for you, because I don't know what the right answer is to this question. Who is Arizona State hockey's biggest rival? Is it Denver, Colorado College, North Dakota? I know Omaha is getting pushed. Or do you go back to the non-conference days still with the two Alaska schools? I know those were heated rivalries in the past. What do you think?
As much as I feel that the Arizona State-Omaha rivalry is being forced, I do think that's turning into the bigger rivalry. Now, granted, there is a big rivalry with proximity for Arizona State and Denver, but I feel like that is a more one-sided rivalry, much like the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers, because Denver has a much closer rival in Colorado College, and I feel like it's not, not to say it's a lack of better options, but I think that this is organically turning into a bitter rivalry, even with the NCHC's efforts.
I think there's a bit of a social media rivalry too between ASU and Denver, because that whole thing kind of sparked even before we joined the NCHC, where they were going back and forth at each other online. Whoever those mods were, props to them. They sparked a pretty decent competition to look forward to each year anytime they go up against one another.
Well,
Yeah, my gut instinct was...
I was going to say, next weekend Denver's going to be anxious to avenge last season's sweep that the Sun Devils put on.
Yeah, I was going to say my gut instinct was Denver as well, but then, Tom, the point you made when the Diamondbacks caught some strays was, I think that makes sense too, is it makes sense as a rival for Arizona State, but I'm not sure that Denver probably doesn't feel quite the same way. But maybe Denver can be like our USC back in the day of USC is not like the number one, but man, does it feel good to beat USC.
Honestly, that's what I see that turning into, is a USC situation.
Well, I was going to try and make some pun on, like, we will see USC, something like that, but it wasn't coming to me. We'll edit this part out. We can make me look smart. But in hockey, we're coming right down to the wire in a playoff atmosphere, of course, and we're kind of getting the same thing in basketball. We're officially under a month away from the start of March Madness, both in men's and women's basketball. And, in men's basketball, last week on the show, we talked about who we wanted to be the next coach. We threw out some names, and apparently Bobby Hurley listened, because he turned in, his team turned in a very good game, and they upset number 13 Texas Tech a couple of days ago. Of course, the bigger story coming out of that game was the fact that Texas Tech's superstar JT Toppin tore his ACL. Horrible news for him. His season, unfortunately, is going to be done. But at the time that he did go down in the game, Arizona State was already up. They had been nursing a healthy lead. They were playing some lockdown defense down the stretch too. And by no stretch does this now suddenly mean that they're in the hunt for the tournament, but I did see something that said that one of the bracketology models that gets put out there said that if ASU can pull off a couple more wins the rest of the way, they might be close to being on the bubble, which is a crazy thing to think about given the way that this season has gone.
We have a quad 1 win, man. Anything is possible.
Yeah, we have a quad 1 win. Have a really good quad 1 win. Does this change anybody's opinion on men's basketball right now?
No, I need to see them beat Oklahoma Coast College. but on a serious note, Bobby Hurley always tends to have those 1 or 2 games a year where he goes and upsets a team in conference play that you say, wow, maybe this is something possibly that could turn into something. Until I see another win of this magnitude, I'm not buying in yet. Bobby Hurley said he was in his prime of coaching. He might be, but the Big 12 is a tough basketball conference. I will give him that, but if this is his prime, it's not cutting it.
If you're going to go via the transitive property, Texas Tech did beat U of A, so we do have 2 quad 1 wins if you think about it.
There you go. Well, 3 from the 2 games that we played against them. So it counts for both games. But, I mean, looking at the rest of their schedule, next up they play at Baylor, and Baylor's not having a good year. They've got at TCU, home against Utah, home against Kansas, and then at Iowa State. I mean, if they take, let's say, 2 or 3 of those, with one of them being a win over Kansas, suddenly their resume looks decent-ish. Maybe you could talk yourself into them being a first 4 team.
I don't know if I want them to be a first 4 team, though.
I'm not saying I want it. I'm saying you could talk yourself into it.
I don't know if I want to talk myself into it. I've had enough of Dayton.
It would be so classic ASU as well for them to just like go on a run, run the rest of the table, and then get 1 or 2 wins in the Big 12 tournament and sneak into the actual NCAA tournament when we've spent this whole year, Bobby Hurley's on the last year of his contract, he's done after this year, and then suddenly it's like, oh wait, he figured it out. Like, now we got to bring him back or let him walk. That would be such a classic ASU conundrum. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying it would feel about right.
You're not saying, but you're saying.
I'm not even saying, not saying, but saying. I'm not saying, and I'm not saying.
The mental gymnastics that I just did to work out your statement. I'm just
saying.
Godzilla had a stroke trying to read that.
Good thing this isn't transcribed.
Yeah, we can go to the transcript for it, and we'll work it out. In the meantime, on the flip side of Desert Financial Arena, the women's basketball team is very much on the bubble. And they unfortunately did not take advantage of what was a golden opportunity on Wednesday against a really, really good Iowa State team. If they had won that game, most likely, barring some collapse the rest of the way, most likely a win like that would have punched their ticket to the tournament, you have to imagine. Even if they had a close loss like they did a week ago against Baylor, that helps you. That even though it's a loss, it's a competitive loss against a really good team, and they lost by a considerable margin. It was not particularly close. It was not their best game. Again, you're still losing to a great team, but when you're trying to make the argument of we should be in that initial field because we can go toe-to-toe with teams like this, having a game like that this close to the tournament is not the best way to make that argument. Aya, what was your main takeaway from that game?
So Addie Brown has made a big difference for the Cyclones in her return. She was on the triple-double watch with 6.7 rebounds and 6 assists. Audie Crooks and Jada Williams has been really impressive for the Cyclones. Like, the Sun Devils couldn't get an answer, but still, keep in mind that they're all new group with players from the transfer portal, and it's going to take some time for the Sun Devils to get to where they want to be.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry, guys. I apologize.
Oh, you're good. And I think the other thing too with Iowa State, they started the season out on fire. They were, I think they were 14-0, and then they lost 5 in a row and just had this slump kind of out of nowhere, and then they got back on track, and they only had one loss since then. So for the vast majority of the season, they've been, one of the 3 best teams in the Big 12, definitely one of the 25 best teams in the nation. It's just that 5-game losing streak was enough to drop them out of the rankings, and they're still trying to climb their way back up there. So it is definitely a really great team that they lost to. Addie Brown coming back from her injury for this game too did not help. But going into the last 3 games of the regular season before the Big 12 tournament, now Arizona State's going to need to finish strong, and they're going to need to win a few games in the Big 12 tournament before they can really feel confident going into Selection Sunday.
In order for them to be considered into the NCAA tournament watch, they would have to go 3-0 the last few games. The last game of the season will be against Texas Tech, which they are ranked at having one of the best seasons in program history. And I can see the Sun Devils continuing to build on that momentum, but it will really depend on the Big 12 tournament. How will they perform? How it will come down to who will be the X factor for the team. Luisa Cabrera, on Wednesday's game, she was limited to just 0 points, and Gabby Elliott, she was only recorded to single digits, looking at the stats. Like, the Cyclones has been really on a roller coaster season, as you mentioned. But the Sun Devils really need to find their strides in order to get into the NCAA tournament for sure. There are some of the games that they should have won in the Big 12, such as the Cincinnati game in which they blew an 18-point lead, and especially at home to a really good Kansas State team as well.
Yeah, it's gonna all come down to how they finish out the year, and as you mentioned, last game of the season is on the road against Texas Tech. That will be the toughest one. The thought of going 3-0 to finish the year it's hard to think about, largely because of Texas Tech looming on that last portion of the schedule. But as we've seen, there's nothing that Arizona State does better than ruining Texas Tech fans' day. Because they beat them in football, they beat them in men's basketball. Why not do it in women's basketball to finish out a strong end of the year? And the thing that I keep coming back to as well is, a year ago this program there was zero chance that any of us were going to be sitting here talking about, they're on the bubble and they really need to finish strong to have a shot at the tournament. So it's the excitement of how this season has gone. It would feel like a disappointment if they don't make the tournament because of just how much better they are than they were last year. But at the same time, the fact that we're even having this conversation is a massive endorsement of the direction of this program with Molly Miller, with this new staff. And by the way, Molly Miller also had a segment on ESPN earlier this week, which is pretty significant given, again, where this program was the last few years. To get a segment like that, to have that kind of exposure, it really does remind you in a lot of ways of the early years of the Kenny Dillingham era as well.
Yes.
People are taking notice, and I mean, women's basketball is not getting an indoor practice facility of the same magnitude, but we do know that renovations are coming to Desert Financial Arena. Their 4-year stage plan begins in May of this year, so things are definitely looking up and looking bright for the future of women's basketball here in Tempe.
For sure.
Yeah, and of course, as we wrap all that up, with both basketball seasons, with hockey, we're going to have plenty to say about it. You can, of course, find all of our stuff on Devils in Detail here at Echo from the Buttes as well. Before we officially wrap up the show, I do want to put everybody on the spot and go around the horn once. And, of course, we alluded to the fact that we don't know yet who this mystery donor is for this practice facility. I want everyone to take their best guess at who it is. And Andrew, you smiled first, so I'm gonna have you start because you look like you had somebody in mind.
I did. A thought did come to mind, and this is kind of hear me out. This is gonna tie the golf team, which Bob Parsons, founder of GoDaddy, currently he sold that company off long ago. Now does PXG. the contract has to end with, I think it's Ping for what the men's ASU got men's side is with, at least I believe. After that runs out, PXG takes over on that side, and that is known to be, and the practice field is known to be as Parsons Extreme Practice Facility or something about that. 'Cause PXG is Parsons Extreme Golf. Like, it could be Parsons Extreme something else.
I like it.
I like it.
Tom, what do you got?
I'm gonna go with a low hanging fruit here and go with Jake Plummer.
I believe I saw that it was not someone tied to ASU. If I read what I read correctly, which memories could be wrong here.
That would be really cool if it was Jake Plummer, but you can't have the phrase plumber as the name of a facility. All due respect to the snake, but
Well, you have
See,
Mono
that's
Plummer
Jake-
Aquatic
Jake's
Center.
or like the Dallas Cowboys, their facility is simply called the Star. They could just call it the Snake. It could work. Austin,
If we put any of these context clues together, somebody is not connected to ASU potentially, and I'm pretty sure Dillingham said it was an 8-figure donor. So we're talking the tens of millions here. I'm trying to whittle down who potentially would be local enough to care about ASU, not be connected, and still have that much money, or at least that much of a net worth. So we could be talking about anybody who lives in Scottsdale. Man, I don't plot twist. It's Rafi. It's Rafi Law Group.
What decided the
Go ahead, Andrew.
What would the side of the practice facility then? Just be a giant Raffi billboard?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't really have a good guess because I don't know who. I can't think of off the top of my head anybody with that much money who would care about ASU, but is not an alum. Because otherwise, my head was going. If it was an alum, my head was going straight to somebody with NFL money. So like Terrell Suggs or someone like that.
Terrell Suggs isn't an alum. He went to Ball So Hard University.
I do have to chime in and think that a hot take, I guess, could be is Jerry Colangelo. He has transferred Arizona sports for the better, and especially like how he has bought into Arizona Diamondbacks, and which they got its first World Series in 2001. That could be a hot take for sure. Jerry Colangelo was also honored at GCU campus as well, which is interesting to say the least, even though it's not related to Sun Devils, but it's like college-wise, and statewide, it's going to be an interesting take.
Yeah, I think I saw that somebody else made that guess online. I was like, that would be very interesting for a few reasons. But Graham Rossini also said that specifically the method in which this mystery billionaire was funding it was a little unconventional too, which doesn't really help me in piecing together clues. But if it is Jerry Colangelo, there may be something there as far as the unconventional method of it all.
What about Matt Ishbia?
That's who I was going to say. And thanks for stealing my thunder, Austin.
Sorry.
But yeah, Matt Ishbia, of course, the owner of the Suns, who also donates very heavily to Michigan State, which is why it would be definitely a surprise, because he already has a university, his alma mater, that he's donating a lot to. But he's not really connected to Arizona State because of that, but is in the Valley, surely knows Kenny Dillingham to some degree, and if he's trying to put down roots in the area, it would make sense to do something like that, and also would not really be it's kind of a drop in the bucket for him for what he would be paying for this practice facility. So it could make a lot of sense. But also I think Michigan State might have a fit if we've got the Matt Ishbia practice facility in Tempe for Arizona State, where of course they haven't won in a hot minute.
Well, we know it's not the Bidwells because they're cheap.
Which the Cardinals did announce a practice facility on the same day as well, a few hours after Arizona State released their renderings. It was really funny because it was very clearly like, well, they can't steal the spotlight from us, and nobody really cared. All due
Here's
respect
another
to Mike LaFleur.
Here's another flyer pick out there. George Kurtz, CEO of CrowdStrike, living in the Valley apparently. A lot of money behind him. Did not go to ASU. He went to Seton Hall. I don't know if they have football at the FCS level, but he won as well.
That would be a good poll. Although he may have lost some of that money when CrowdStrike had their crash and jeopardized everybody's flights not too long ago. But neither here nor there.
Another possibility I thought of was the Garcia family behind Carvana. They've got that big tower right across the freeway from ASU campus.
That would be fun, because then you could work in, like, with the NIL age too, giving a car to each player to drive to and from the Carvana practice facility, or maybe not every player, maybe just the good ones, but
build one of the parking lot towers at the facility for athletes to use, and maybe on game days, fans. It's a possibility.
Oh no, they wouldn't. No, fans, you have to drive your own car. You have to park 10 miles away. You have to walk. You have to get assaulted by the security guards halfway along the way to the stadium. That's part of the experience.
Well, the price for parking for that would be, instead of your typical like $20, it would be $100.
$20 for parking.
Then you got to Uber to the stadium too.
Wait! Where are you getting parking on game day for $20, my friend?
I don't know.
They dropped the prices since I graduated. That's not how it's supposed to work.
I do know they dropped the prices recently when Rossini took over.
Well, there you go. I haven't been there in a minute, but that's good. I had to take out extra student loans to pay for parking when I was there. So, but of course, for those who are watching, Austin Bundy dropped off because he was, I assume, got lost down a rabbit hole of searching for who this mystery millionaire could be. So he's gonna do the work. He's gonna figure it out. He'll have the inside scoop, and maybe we know who it is next time we're on the show. Maybe we don't. Either way, we will be back next week breaking down everything else that happens, that unfolds in the next week for Arizona State athletics. So signing off for Austin Bundy, Aya Abdeen, Andrew Hazlett, and Tom Harden, I'm David Howman, coming from this full house here at Echo from the Buttes, and as always, give 'em Hell Devils.